Okay, I think we can start if everyone's ready.
Sounds good. We're right on time.
Perfect, perfect. So first of all, thank you and welcome to everyone for joining us today. We're so happy to have H2O join the Money God League initiative meant to bring non-pegged assets into the mainstream. Sami and Marek, you're both welcome to introduce yourselves. Some quick info for the audience here. If you'd like to ask a question, please request to speak and we'll let you on. Go ahead, Sami, Marek, the floor is
That sounds
yours.
good. Sammy, did you want to introduce New Order and yourself, and then I'll go?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm Sammy. Been in the DeFi space for a few years now, mostly on the research and analysis side. Um, Came out of school and started doing strategy and research with like a few different layer ones, most recently Masari, and then started working with Merrick on this incubator DAO project where we spin up a bunch of cool ideas and bootstrap them with a community like H2O. I'm sure we'll dive more into it, so I'll just keep the intros pretty short.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my name is Marek. Sort of long story short, I used to teach data science at the.
Oh, we lost him.
Uh-oh.
Let me ping him.
This is why I'm not sure about Discord amaze. I think there's a lot of like technical issues on this.
Yeah, the stages aren't the best, but I'm not sure like what the I guess like Twitter.
Yeah, that's what we plan to do in the future. I think it is simpler.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Merrick will hop back on. Something probably happened, but I mean, yeah, we can get started.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, sounds good. Um, so just to introduce New Order DAO to the audience, it was created with the goal to build a self-governing incubator to assist innovation in the DeFi space. So, Sami, would you like to begin by expanding on how New Order DAO seeks to achieve this goal?
yeah, so I mean, I guess like sometimes people would tie it back to like a venture DAO, which is what people are probably most familiar with. Sort of a system where it's a permission DAO allowing like KYC capital in, and then as a collective, as a community, you decide where to allocate capital. Um, Being a permissionless DAO, you're obviously in a position where you can't just go and allocate capital out, but rather the approach we're taking in keeping it permissionless is fostering a bunch of founders and putting in sweat equity instead of like venture capital into the DeFi space. Um, and the goal of it, like with some of these like pre-incubated dApps like H2O is to sort of like really foster this like community of like innovators and thinkers um, that are sort of like far down the rabbit hole, like sort of stuff like like Rye, and just continuously like get together and spin out new dApps and help bootstrap them with resources that we generate through the DAO. Sort of like this concept of like a community as a co-founder rather than like a traditional venture DAO.
Right, that's great. So then you plan to ungovern the H2O protocol similar to how Rye will ungovern?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I
right.
think the reason we chose to include the governance token in V1 was one for like security reasons, like um, just having a good grip on like the initial network state is probably the smartest idea just for the security of users. But as we transition into V2 and we think we can find a way to onboard new collateral as time goes without like having governance, I think that's probably like the path we want to take. I've been pretty inspired recently by like recent efforts in DeFi, sort of like um, this Rari merger that's coming up. I think that could be something we explore too, where we just like dissolve our governance token and rather like maybe even have it governed by like the Ocean Protocol or something, right? Or even have it. I know like Rari doesn't have a governance token per se, but like finding a way where it can still be it can still evolve over time without having like, a governance mechanism, because that still has its flaws.
Yeah, so right, we actually call FLX the ungovernance token.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and Aqua is the equivalent in the Ocean Protocol, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, Aqua is like our FLX, but one thing I just flag is that like in the V1 deployment, like that will have governance privileges over the protocol,
Right.
just to help like get it on its own 2 feet and get it rolling, and I guess like put the V2 in front of users and make the V2 is really like the fleshed out final state that we want to be in. But we're
Right.
not just going to upgrade by ourselves, because the V1 will be like an immutable contract, right? So, or sorry, a non-upgradable contract, right? So what we want to do is put the V2 in front of users, have them vote on that. If we need to do any governance in the meantime, we'll do that. And then I think the V2 we're really gunning for like, minimizing governance as much as possible.
Yeah, that's really great. Well, I'd like to know more about the role of H2O, the stablecoin, in the Ocean Data Marketplace. So, um, whilst researching this project, I saw that H2O's first use case would be as the official currency of the Ocean Data Marketplace. What can users having staked Ocean and thus minted H2O expect to use the coin for within this marketplace?
Yeah, I think there's an issue with a lot of stable coins right now where people, um, if it's not like a proprietary idea, it's sort of like one of these like peg stable coins, whatever the case is, like the real like only use case for them is like leverage or shorting, whatever the case is, right? And one thing we really wanted to do with H2O, I guess, like one of the reasons we decided to pursue it is to make sure that like, there is natural volume for the token coming from like, general demand, right? And so, when we were sort of like hashing this idea out with Ocean, one of the things we came to was like, using it as, it looks like Merrick's back in the crowd, um,
Oh,
using it as a, like the native currency of Ocean, right? So with Ocean right now, it's a great product. Like it does everything it says it can does. It's a permissionless data marketplace where you can trade data assets. But everything is priced in the Ocean token, which is a volatile asset. And someone who might have put a lot of hard work into, creating a data set could have listed it for 50 Ocean, which is trading at like $1, right? Or let's say 500 Ocean that's trading at $1. And then the next day there's a market crash and now Ocean's trading at half that price. Now they're only getting half of what they wanted, right? And it goes both ways. There's so much volatility in some of these like early stage protocols that um, pricing things in a volatile asset just doesn't make sense. So how could we make an asset that's um, not a pegged dollar, but rather like a stable asset that lives within this ocean economy that still brings value to the ocean token holders, as well as like the greater ecosystem around it, which is the data tokens, and that's sort of where we got to with H2O.
okay. Thank you for elaborating. Marek, welcome again.
I was laughing because I'm wondering how long I was talking into the void for. Because as I said at the start, I don't know if anybody caught it. I used to like lecture at a university, and so I kind of tend to ramble sometimes. So I told a nice long yarn. I don't know if I want to retell it, but it sounds like you guys are in the middle of it. So I'm just gonna tune in for the next question.
Yeah, so I was basically asking Sami whether like about the H2O stablecoin's first use case as official currency of Ocean Data Marketplace, and then we were talking about how Ocean, is a volatile asset and how H2O could solve that. If you'd like to add anything.
No, it sounds like kind of you've covered the bases again. I don't know what people heard from my previous sort of talk or what I said earlier, but yeah, we're very like bullish and long on data and data tokens as a new asset class, right? And so yeah, I don't know if that's already been said.
Yeah. So I also saw that Ocean version 4 is looking to include data NFTs and promising to solve rug pull challenges. Could you tell us more about that? And I'm really sorry about the ambulances. I live in London.
Yeah, I wish we actually had somebody from Ocean to sort of talk more about that. What I can say is that what they are doing is they've had a lot of experience with the sort of the previous launch of the Ocean marketplace, and they identified a number of issues as you pointed out, rug pulls, sort of the friction of not having a sort of stable medium of exchange or unit of account, and so like part of what we're doing with H2O is sort of our launch is like launch of H2O is going to coincide with the launch of their new marketplace. Is going to address a lot of the previous issues that were there, right? And I think part of that long-term view, right, is to create better pricing and valuation methodologies for data tokens, and that's that's going to be part of our strategy for V2. I kind of rambled on about V2 earlier. I don't know if it's been said, but yeah, we in our V2 we plan to actually use the data tokens themselves as collateral, to back H2O, which I think is a very exciting prospect. It's going to require a lot of work between now and then, but another thing I said earlier, don't know if people caught it, was that we're working with some of the brightest token engineering minds in the space, Token Engineering Commons, others. We've got some great people we're working with, to sort of solve these challenges. And I wanted to just invite anyone in the audience, anyone who's interested, if they're also very interested in data as an asset class, as a reserve asset for DeFi, please come join us in our quest.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we didn't actually hear you earlier about the V2. I think it did cut off, so thank you for expanding on that. I'm also very glad that you've touched on data tokens, because I do think us and the audience would like to know more about that, since I do think it's quite unique.
I think I think it's a really interesting use case for Rye, right? Like I know when we all fell down like the Rye rabbit hole, it seemed like the natural evolution was something like Vault, which I think is still a great idea. But what can we really do to like progress the the Rye ecosystem without like staying within this market of like DeFi, right? And I think the data economy is going to be a huge, like I think it's going to be a huge trend next year, right? You're already seeing like the emergence of a lot of big protocols like Ocean, Filecoin. Like there's a bunch of people starting to look into like decentralizing data and sort of creating this economy around it, right? If we can make really like an ungoverned, immutable system that turns data into like really an asset, I think it's like a great opportunity to like expand Rise reach into like new verticals of crypto. Um, Data tokens themselves, right? They're just ERC20s that contain like, like a easy way to think about it is it's a token gated access to metadata within the ERC20 that provides users like data sets on different things, right? So if you go to Ocean, you'll see like I think they have right now, like in the initial state, like there's a lot of data sets on, like gambling. What else have you seen there, Mary? There's some cool stuff like agriculture data that people have put together.
Yeah,
Um,
there's all kinds
data.
of data sets, and it's really timely that the Ocean marketplace is kind of getting revamped, because increasingly there's going to be use cases. Like when we've been talking pretty loudly about like machine intelligence and using statistical learning and machine learning methods that sometimes it's worthwhile to sort of anchor those things to a blockchain, tie them to a blockchain, and commoditize and DeFi eyes them. But that's just sort of one potential use case for data tokens within DeFi and blockchain. Yeah, that's all I want to say on that.
I actually, upon researching about Ocean, I actually noticed this smart city initiative, Smart Dubai. So it would be the world's first open decentralized data architecture. Would stablecoins like H2O like have a role within these initiatives?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these smart cities initiatives, they're definitely like kind of, I would say, multidisciplinary, multifaceted, right? Like IoT's in there. Like IoT data would probably be the primary data that's transacted within a smart cities kind of context. Although a stable unit of account or medium of exchange for paying people for the data. For example, like in your house, in the future, there's going to be all kinds of data that's generated by like appliances and internal like building systems in a condo, for example, like that, right? Which are really going to help smart cities sort of adapt and plan and kind of optimize. And people are gonna. I believe in the future, like people are gonna have ownership rights more so today, more so than they do today, right? Over their own data. Like so, for example, there's things like autonomous vehicles and smart fridges and things like that, where you sign a terms of service, and 99% of the time those basically say that well, we basically own all the data that your device generates, kind of thing, right? And I think that potential of ecosystems like oceans, right? Have the potential to sort of flip that on its head, right? I mean, I think consumers are going to start demanding these sort of things, right? So, again, coming back to the smart cities, yeah, definitely a stable medium of exchange and unit of account is going to be, very valuable for that data sort of driven economy, right? And H2O.
He's probably talking to himself again.
I wonder why he keeps getting rugged.
Yeah.
He's dropping too many gems. That's why.
Yeah, they don't want to hear the truth.
Damn. Well,
I think he
okay.
got around to the answer.
I think he was, sorry?
I think he got around to the answer to your question.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, Sami, I'll ask you then. Obviously, you have a very grand vision of the future, which I actually really agree with because I'm very big on public goods, and yeah, I think DeFi is great, but it's in infancy because it hasn't yet started to impact things like public goods, and H2O sounds like a stable asset that would look to do that. So the stable asset market is very competitive these days. Could you potentially give us a sneak peek into your strategy to make H2O successful beyond the core ocean community?
Yeah, I think that comes around like after the V2 development starts, right? So V1 and V2 is really focused on bootstrapping the initial supply through ocean, right? Through the typical tricks like, like farming and like bootstrapping rewards and all that sort of stuff, right? But then I think quickly after V2, once we really get this like system going, that's when we start to look to like new data marketplaces, you could say, or just like new instances of data on blockchain, right? Like there has been like a few protocols that have hit us up already talking about like what they're sort of doing in the world of like tokenizing data. And I don't want to like drop names and stuff, announcements of an announcement, right? But um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cool use cases for like data and DeFi. I think like you look at something like Filecoin, you look at something like EWC, and while we at our core, like like really enjoy like building and developing on top of Ethereum, like there's a lot of like instances where we can go and make this like the native currency of some other, or like the native stable coin of some other blockchains that are like very data focused, right? There is like a lot of chains out there that sort of build in this realm. So while our focus right now like is really focused on getting the Ethereum instance bootstrapped, as well as like the ocean use case bootstrapped and getting natural volume going there, I can quickly see it expanding into like other markets that have like a focus on decentralized data.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's a good plan. I do think like once people start looking into the value of stable assets, there's going to be a lot of demands for it,
I
especially
think
those that have.
like it's important to note like one of the reasons we think we're like a good addition to the Money God League is I don't see it ever being a situation where there's a competition between like H2O and Rye, if that makes sense, right? I think
Right.
like the markets that we plan to like expand out to, or something that maybe isn't like, while I think Rye is money and it's like can be used anywhere, like beyond DeFi and stuff too, right? Specifically, I see it like being like used within DAO treasuries. I could see it like sort of like branching off into like real world payments and stuff. I think with this token, it has like a very honed in vision specifically on decentralized data, which I think like is anyone's game at the moment. And if we can make a case for that, like using data as collateral and stuff, like that's really where we're gonna focus in.
Right, right. Welcome back, Marek, by the way.
Thanks. I've offended some, verification god somewhere.
Yeah.
I keep trying to verify, but whatever, it's fine. I'm more conscious of what's going on now, so I may get cut off.
That's exactly what we were saying. You're dropping too many gems and someone just keeps rugging you. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like I think H2O and that stable asset will definitely probably go in a different direction than Raya's. And anyway, we're very we're encouraging of monetary experiments. So yeah, competition is definitely not a Web3 mindset.
Yeah, I think I like to think of it as sort of like a sidecar to Reflexer.
Yeah,
That's like then on a specific vertical.
yeah. And data is so important, like especially as we move, from more centralized big tech world to one that's more open. Data is basically the biggest thing. Like data security, people want data security. So yeah. Well, I think the audience also wants to know, how can they access H2O? So I'd like to ask you, will H2O be available on L2 such as Optimism? How can people access it apart from staking Ocean?
Yeah, I mean, so the initial deployment will be on Ethereum, and I think we're aligned with you guys. I could say an Ocean in the sense where we want to stay mostly on the Ethereum chain. Ocean protocol right now is deployed to several chains, Polygon, Arbitrum, I believe, Moonriver, Energy Web Chain. They deploy to a few different chains, and wherever we can establish ourselves there and use Ocean as like a catalyst for growth for this stablecoin, then we'll definitely like pounce on that, right? I think it's going to be a boring bridge at first, where we just bridge to the other chain and just like get liquidity going there. But I think we've also been like, me and Marek have also talked a lot about like meshed liquidity networks and stuff like that. And while I don't want to overpromise and stuff, I think um, the token can have its own instances on other networks as we see more growth there, right? Like the truth is like there's just not enough activity on those chains to really like put too much of a focus on it right now. When you think about like the opportunity you have to build on Ethereum and potentially like Arbitrum and stuff, right?
Mm.
So while I think we will branch out to other chains and get liquidity going there, it'll be, what you're familiar with, just a bridge token and trading it on a DEX and stuff. But if we discover that there's another network that really is like adopting data and really putting a focus on that, I could see it becoming more of an initiative for us to explore, like, the mesh liquidity networks and the unique instances.
Yeah, the great thing about this proliferation of EVM compatible chains like opens up like a whole host of new applications and possibilities for DeFi. One very exciting one, again, Sami mentioned is mesh liquidity networks. But I would say like nothing's off the table at this point. I mean, again, what different EVM chains kind of allow you is as a DApp or protocol developer, right? Of really choosing L1s, rollups, these sort of options. You can really sort of shop around and choose the best one for your for your protocol. So like I would say nothing's off the table at this point.
Right. Okay. Well, then what do you see the next steps as? Obviously, you've talked about version 2, but do you have a concrete roadmap towards there, or?
Yeah, so right now we've got, I would say, an informal roadmap, because a lot of it from our side is as mentioned, really tied to like Ocean's V4 roadmap and sort of coinciding with that. So like we're right now, like our efforts are focused definitely on getting V1 out the door. We're actually pretty close to starting a like a closed beta, just for some initial, get some initial hands on it before opening it up to more of like a public beta situation. So we're going to be probably starting that process next Monday, getting some early stakeholder feedback before we take it to the wider community. But we're going to be excited to share, share that. So for those of you that are like kind of like sleuths, you can probably find our activity on um, one of the Ethereum test nets right now. we're kind of getting ready to go. So yeah, definitely our efforts right now focus on V1. So we're looking at a Q1 2022 launch, and then kind of in parallel with that, like I think that probably before the holidays, we're going to be turning our attention, at least our research efforts and attention to to a potential V2. So yeah, I think that that's more or less the roadmap, right? And we've sort of talked about the major points of V2, right, which will be being backed by data tokens, which is sort of going to require a robust ocean data market to emerge, before we implement that, and definitely some other improvements.
That's awesome. Thank you for explaining that. I'm sure the Reflexer community is also very excited to hear about the Aqua on governance tokens and their distribution for the Reflexer community, which is really good news. So I've read it's planned to occur over 24 months via staking contracts. Could you please clarify which users this includes? And yeah.
We changed that. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was just like, it was basically like a typo that got into some whatever the copy, the official copy. It's going to be distributed over 18 months.
Well, that's even better.
Which is even better, exactly. So it's good news.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, 18 months, 24 months. Yeah, the Aqua governance token is going to be like a fair launch token, which we're distributing amongst like the community of like our incubator DAO, the Reflexer community, and the Ocean Protocol. We thought it was just keeps dropping. We thought it would be better to, since we put that proposal out, we actually had some discussions and stuff, and we thought it was better to up the distribution to actually like 10% of the supply, that's distributed to the Reflexer community, um, just to like get everyone from the Reflexer community more aligned and stuff like that. Because, obviously we were more involved with the Ocean Protocol prior to this, and we're sort of like new faces to FLXers. So we think like like a really good way to like incentivize this community, help get more people on board, because we really want to make the developments of it as decentralized and open to collaboration as possible. And we just felt like 7% wasn't didn't really cut that, whereas we think like distributing 10% of the supply is actually better. So that's some alpha. I tried to go into the forum post and edit it, but maybe Stefan, you're gonna have to give me edit access or something. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be 10% of supply distributed over 18 months. We initially, like, I think when this protocol first started, there wasn't any plans for the curve pool. So we were going to distribute it like half and half towards the two Uni V2 LPs. But I see there's like some interesting developments now with like curve and stuff. So we'll definitely be in there incentivizing that LP as well to help bootstrap that. It's subject to change, right? Like I think the supply and the distribution period is locked in. But if even if another LP position pops up in the near future with like Reflexer, we can quickly pivot and supply and push rewards there and stuff, right? This is one of the things that we want to be like working closely with the Reflexer community on. So yeah, like if this is another reason that we need like governance in the initial deployment, because there's things like this that are you know, kind of crucial, right? Kind of crucial in a way. So, um, yeah, but excited to like, get all that stuff rolling and start liquidity mining with all you guys.
Yeah, and I think one of the big advantages to projects in the Money God League is like we are all, in a sense, kind of like learning from the experiences of the Reflexer community and the Reflexer like Rye protocol. I kind of like from my experience, kind of with it or looking at it, the protocol has done a pretty good job, I think, of kind of maintaining stability. Like it's been trading at approximately $3 now for like I think a good number of months. So um, you know, we're definitely sort of like I would say a data driven sort of kind of mentality project, and we kind of want to continue using modeling simulation. I do. Hopefully, I don't get cut off here, but as I'll be brief. I think it's by I'll try not to ramble here too much. But one of the questions I kind of wanted to respond to was on the Reflexer forum, and it was sort of in response to our post and basically just saying, models aren't perfect. Models are not a crystal ball, right? Which is a sentiment I agree with, right? I mean, it's true. I don't think we overstated in the post, that we have all the answers and we've got a crystal ball, and I think that the point of modeling, kind of maybe contrary to what the poster said, the not the op, but what the response was, is that the value of modeling is again, not that you have a crystal ball, but when you're doing sort of new experimental protocols, right? Like I mean, I think Rye is coming out of that experimental stage and sort of coming onto its own right as an asset class that people trust. But for a new protocol like H2O, before you launch, before you try things, right? Modeling and simulation and data analysis can sort of point you in the right direction for that first step you take, right? Like it's no plan kind of completely survives intact when it's employed, but by using a data driven modeling and analysis approach, we sort of set ourselves up to give us the best chance of success, right? When we do go live and there's and there's real money kind of on the line, right? So is it perfect? Is it a perfect crystal ball? No. Is it better than is it sort of like the best we can do, right, to prepare? I would say yes, right? I mean, there's a lot of insight gained modeling. So I just wanted to respond to that. Maybe it was more of a comment, but I'll take it as a question.
Yeah, I did notice that comment. So what you're saying in brief, just to sum that up, is that you have to apply models to know whether they work or not.
Yeah, that's definitely true, right? And the again, the point I wanted to underline is like a model's not a crystal ball. It's more of like a like a little laboratory, like a model that you can play with, right? To kind of better understand the system and help validate ideas and just serve as a tool for understanding both a protocol and its interaction with the marketplace, with its community, its users, its liquidity providers, all these things, right? So that's more or less the point I was going for.
Right. Okay, I understand. No, but yeah, going back to what you were saying about the Money God League, I do think it's great because with the with more and more experiments arising, I guess more and more people will be inspired to try their own thing, and this is how DeFi will grow. This is how the stable asset class and its uses will grow. So yeah, no, we're definitely open to forks, and we're very glad to see H2O here, and we're very excited to see how it's going to evolve as well within data and all that.
I agree with everything you said.
I guess one small comment about Nikolai's post on the forum. I had many talks with him last year when we were designing Rye, and he wants things done in a certain way. Like 5 years ago, when he thought about the controller for single collateral DAI, he wanted a more of a step function. Like you have the redemption rate, and then you just add or subtract a fixed amount from that rate, depending like on where the market price is compared to the target. And that's pretty much it. You don't like do PID stuff like Roy does. He kind of rejects that idea that this controller should be a PID. So he wants like things done like he thought about them like 5 years ago. And it would be interesting if one of our friendly forks would experiment with that controller. It would make him happy. So yeah, we can also see how his idea would play out in real life.
Yeah, I mean, like just speaking as an engineer, right? I mean, PID is like a well vetted control systems principle, right? Insofar as a DeFi protocol is a system that's controllable, using the principles of control theory, I think it's a sound, let's call it an experiment, right? Like you just call it, you just call it an experiment, right? I mean, it's so far, so far from what I've seen observing the RAI protocol, like the Reflexer, GEB in action, I mean, it seems to be working, right? Like so, I would call the experiment a success. That's fine.
Right. Yeah. Because Okay. Well, I think we're gonna wrap up. I don't know if the audience has any questions. We haven't had any requested speakers, so I don't think we do have any questions. Sami and Marek, if you'd like to I guess, put any information out there, feel free to.
Yeah, I mean, I will. I was looking for like the relevant channel to drop stuff in, but I'll drop our Discord link where we started spinning up like a few H2O channels and working groups and stuff like that. Like we said, we've been grinding this for a little bit, so we're very close to a deployment. But we're always open to bringing more people in. We do have like a ton of tokens going towards contributors and stuff like that. So I'll find the right channel and I'll just drop in our Discord link and whatever other relevant links, and we can start grinding on it as a community.
Yeah, that sounds great. You can either send me a DM and I post it, or if you have access to our general chat or development, just feel free to drop it there so everyone can access.
Okay, cool. I will put it in one of those.
Thank you. Okay, well,
Thanks for having us. It's been fun.
yeah, thank you so much for explaining everything, and we're really excited to see H2O evolve.
Sure thing.
Thank you, guys. And thank you, everyone, for joining.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Stefan.
Later.
Bye, everyone.